There is a simple truth we often overlook. Our habits are the currency with which we purchase our own future. Every single day, without fail, we are making transactions, we are making deposits, we are making withdrawals. And whether we realize it or not, our lives become the exact reflection of the ledger we've been keeping for years. Some write in this ledger consciously, others write in it accidentally, but all of us write in it, and none of us can escape the consequences of what we record. When people talk about success, they often speak in grand terms: ambition, belief, confidence, goals. They talk about the big wins, the big moves, the big opportunities, but very few talk about the quiet, unglamorous truth. Success is simply the outcome of a lifetime of tiny transactions. The ones we make when no one is watching, the ones that don't feel significant in the moment, the ones that seem so small they could never matter. Yet they do, they matter more than we think. Imagine waking up every morning with an invisible ledger in your hands. On one side, deposits on the other, debits, each habit, each action, each decision goes into one column or the other. If you choose to read for 10 minutes, that's a deposit. If you choose to scroll mindlessly for an hour, that's a debit. If you take a walk, deposit. If you skip it again because you're tired, debit. If you speak with gratitude, deposit. If you complain about problems you refuse to solve, debit. It's simple, it's not complicated. The complexity comes from the fact that we humans are very good at rationalizing our debits. We say things like, "It's just one day," or "I'll start again Monday," or "This won't make a difference." And every time we say things like that, we underestimate the power of small choices and small habits. We underestimate the fact that every little decision compounds over time. We believe our success will come from the big moments, the big goals, the big breakthroughs, but the real question, the question that reveals everything, is this: what are you depositing every single day? The uncomfortable truth is that your future is being shaped not by your dreams, not by your intentions, not even by your talent, but by your habits. By the transactions you make when no one is holding you accountable, by the choices you make when it's easier to choose what's convenient instead of what's meaningful. And here's the most important part: habits are honest, they don't lie, they don't pretend, they don't negotiate. They don't care about excuses, they don't care about your feelings, your mood, or your past. Habits are mechanical. They are patterns, they are repetition made visible. Think of the people you admire, not for their achievements, but for their consistency, for their discipline, for their ability to show up again and again and again. These people aren't extraordinary because they were born talented or because they got lucky. They are extraordinary because they made more deposits than debits. They made decisions aligned with the future they wanted instead of the comfort they desired in the moment. Success is never purchased in one payment. It is paid for in daily installments. Small, consistent, unremarkable installments. The problem is that humans are naturally impatient. We want the result long before we've earned it. We want the outcome long before we've built the habits that support it. We want to feel accomplished long before we've done the work. This is why so many people start strong and fade quickly. They believe success is an event, a moment, a breakthrough, a time when everything changes at once, but nothing could be further from the truth. Success is not one massive deposit. It's the result of countless tiny ones accumulated over years. Consider the habit of reading 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes, it doesn't feel like anything. It doesn't feel productive. It doesn't feel transformative. But 10 minutes every day for a year becomes 60 hours. 60 hours of learning. 60 hours of growth. 60 hours of expanding your thinking. Multiply that over 5 years. 10 years. That's when deposits start to look like wisdom. Like clarity, like confidence, like success. Now consider the opposite, the habit of wasting 10 minutes a day on distractions that offer nothing in return. 10 minutes becomes an hour An hour becomes a habit becomes a lifestyle, and a lifestyle becomes a ledger full of debits that quietly pull you further away from the life you want. The difference between where you are and where you want to be is not luck. It's not circumstance. It's not even opportunity. It's habits. Every day, your current habits are either preparing you for the future you're asking for, or they are disqualifying you from it. When you look at your life today, what you see, the results, the progress, the setbacks, they are not accidents. They are simply the visible balance of your invisible ledger, the balance you have built over years of habits. Years of choices, years of behaviors good or bad. People often ask, how do I change my life? The answer is remarkably simple: change your transactions. Change what you deposit, change what you withdraw, change the daily actions that either build you up or break you down. But there is something else to understand. The most powerful deposits are the smallest ones, the ones that are easy to do, and easy not to do. Anyone can meditate for 5 minutes, read a page, practice gratitude, take a small step toward a big goal. Anyone can do these things. They don't require talent, they don't require strength, they don't require motivation. What they require is a decision to act even when the action seems insignificant, a decision to trust the compounding effect of tiny steps. A decision to believe that the smallest positive habit is infinitely more powerful than the biggest intention. Your ledger is not built on perfection, it's built on patterns. You don't need to make perfect deposits every day. You just need to make more deposits than debits. You need to recognize when a debit is becoming a habit and stop it before it grows into something heavier. And you need to understand that deposits are always harder to make in the beginning. They don't feel good at first. They don't feel easy, they don't feel rewarding, but the more you do them, the more natural they become. The more natural they become, the more effortless they feel, and the more effortless they feel, the more your ledger shifts in your favor. The secret is not to try harder. The secret is to become consistent, to show up, to honor the future you want by making choices that reflect it, to act like the person you want to become even before you feel like you are that person. Everything you want, every goal, every dream, every achievement is already written in your ledger. The question is, have you made enough deposits to earn it? Success doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for loyalty. Loyalty to your habits, loyalty to your future, loyalty to the kind of life you know you're capable of building. So ask yourself every day, what did I deposit today? What did I withdraw today? What will this choice add to my life? What will it cost me? Your ledger never lies. It doesn't care about what you say. It cares about what you do. Your habits write the truth about who you are becoming. And when you choose your habits wisely, when you choose your deposits daily, when you honor your goals through consistent action, your future becomes inevitable. Because you earned it, one small deposit at a time. There is something remarkable about the smallest habits we form. We rarely notice them. We rarely treat them with the respect they deserve, and yet they quietly shape everything from the opportunities we receive to the dreams we're able to pursue. Small deposits compound, small debits accumulate. It is one of the most powerful truths about human behavior, and yet it is one of the least understood. When people think of success, they imagine dramatic turning points, the breakthrough moment, the life-changing decision. The big leap. They imagine a single action that suddenly transforms everything. But the reality is far less glamorous and far more honest. Most of what determines our success or failure happens in the tiny, almost invisible habits we repeat daily. The small things matter. They matter more than we think. The challenge is that these small things rarely announce themselves as important. Reading one page doesn't feel life-changing. Practicing a skill for 5 minutes doesn't feel impressive. Saving a little money doesn't feel impactful. Waking up on time one morning doesn't feel like discipline. But over a lifetime, these small acts become powerful deposits that grow, strengthen, and ultimately compound into something meaningful. On the other hand, procrastinating once doesn't feel destructive. Scrolling for a few minutes doesn't seem harmful. Skipping a workout doesn't seem consequential. Complaining once doesn't feel toxic. But over time, these small debits start to add up. They start to build patterns, they start to form identities, and soon the life we live becomes the life we settled for, not the life we envisioned. The problem isn't that small habits are slow. The problem is that small habits are quiet. They whisper. They don't shout. Deposits whisper, "This matters." Debits whisper too, "Just this once." But whisper by whisper, the direction of our life begins to change. Think about a person who commits to improving by just 1% every day. 1% is tiny. It's almost laughable. But 1% compounded daily becomes 30, 7 times better after a year. Now imagine the opposite, getting just 1% more careless or 1% more distracted every day. You won't notice it at first, but eventually the ledger reveals the truth. You've become someone you never intended to be. This is the deceptive nature of small habits. They are never neutral. They are always compounding for you or against you. The people who achieve the things they dream of are not superhuman. They are not born with more talent, more intelligence, or more opportunity. What they have is respect for the small things. They understand the power of tiny deposits. They understand that consistency creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. Meanwhile, people who consistently struggle are not unlucky or destined to fail. They are simply unaware of how quickly small negative habits can accumulate. They don't realize that small debits do not stay small. They grow, they multiply, they become heavier over time. They become the invisible weight that makes progress feel impossible. The truth is that the world we live in is built on the idea of instant gratification. We crave results quickly. We want to see progress immediately. We want success to come fast. And when it doesn't, we assume something's wrong with us, or something's wrong with the process, or worse, we assume the goal wasn't meant for us. But nothing could be further from the truth. Success doesn't come quickly, it comes quietly, and it comes from the smallest actions repeated consistently over a long period of time. Consider a simple example: saving $1 a day. $1 does nothing today, $1 does nothing tomorrow. $1 does nothing next week, but over time $1 becomes a habit. The habit becomes discipline. The discipline becomes financial stability, and one day that tiny habit you barely noticed becomes the foundation of something meaningful. The same is true in fitness. One push-up won't make you strong. One healthy meal won't transform your body. One good night of sleep won't reshape your energy, but repeat them for months, repeat them for years. Suddenly, you're no longer the same person. You didn't change in one moment. You changed in thousands of tiny ones. The same is true in relationships. Being kind once doesn't make a relationship healthy. Listening once doesn't build trust. Saying, "I appreciate you," once doesn't deepen connection, but when those small acts are repeated consistently, intentionally, they create relationships built on genuine respect, loyalty, and care. But the opposite is also true. Ignoring your health once won't break you. Missing a goal once won't derail you. Neglecting a relationship once won't destroy it, but repeated over time, that's when things begin to fall apart. This is why habits demand awareness, they demand attention, they demand honesty. Because if we aren't paying attention, we will quietly drift into a life we never wanted, not because of one big mistake, but because of 1,000 tiny ones. One of the greatest myths in life is that success comes from intensity, that if we push hard enough for a short period of time, we can reach the finish line faster. But success doesn't reward intensity. Success rewards consistency. Anyone can be intense for a day. Anyone can be committed for a week. Anyone can be disciplined when they feel motivated. But consistency is different. Consistency asks for loyalty long after motivation has left. Consistency asks for action long after the excitement has faded. Consistency asks for investment even when there is no immediate return. Consistency is the compounding force of progress. Think about the people who reach extraordinary levels of excellence. They don't get there by waking up one day and doing something heroic. They get there through thousands of small, often boring, repetitive habits that no one else notices. They get there by making the deposits that most people skip. They get there by avoiding the debits that most people tolerate. Greatness is not created in the grand gestures, it is created in the quiet moments of discipline. But here's the beauty of small habits. You don't need to overhaul your life to change your trajectory. You don't need to reinvent yourself, you don't need a massive transformation, you only need to choose one small deposit today, and another tomorrow, and another the day after that, because once your deposits begin to compound, they generate their own momentum. Momentum creates energy, energy creates belief, belief creates identity, and identity creates a future. At some point, your habits stop being something you do, they become who you are. You stop forcing discipline and start embodying it. You stop chasing success and start attracting it. You stop wishing for a better life and start building one. But this only happens when we acknowledge the truth. Every tiny habit we practice is either building the life we want or building the life we fear. When you choose a small deposit, you're not just choosing a habit, you're choosing a direction, you're choosing a future. You're choosing a version of yourself that is stronger, more capable, and more committed than the one you were yesterday. When you choose a small debit, you're not just choosing comfort, you're choosing a delay, you're choosing a compromise. You're choosing a version of yourself that accepts less than what you're capable of. And here's something important to understand. Both the deposit and the debit feel harmless in the moment. Both feel small, both feel insignificant. That's why people ignore them. That's why people dismiss them. That's why people underestimate them, but time does not underestimate them. Time amplifies them. Time magnifies every choice. Time multiplies every habit. Time rewards the deposits and exposes the debits. This is why small habits matter. They create the compounding effect that builds success or the compounding effect that erodes it. You don't need to be extraordinary today. You don't need to make massive progress today. You simply need to make one tiny deposit, one decision that moves you one step closer to the life you want to live. Because when you choose small positive habits consistently, you're not just winning today, you're building a future where winning becomes inevitable. Success doesn't arrive suddenly, it arrives slowly, quietly, gradually built one small deposit at a time. And when the day comes that your efforts finally show, people will call it luck. They'll say you got a break. They'll say you were born for it, but you'll know the truth. You'll know it wasn't luck, it wasn't talent. It wasn't timing. It was every small deposit you made when no one was watching. Small deposits compound. Big debits accumulate, and your life becomes what you repeatedly choose. Choose wisely. Choose consistently. Choose the deposits that build your future, even when they feel small, because nothing small stays small forever. There is a moment each day that most people overlook. It usually lasts no more than a minute or two. It's the moment where you pause not to think about your goals, not to think about your challenges, not to think about what's next, but to think about what you did today. The moment where you take a quiet inventory of your actions, the moment where you ask yourself a simple question, did I make deposits today, or did I make debits? This small act of daily accounting may be the single greatest indicator of whether your life is moving forward, standing still, or quietly drifting backward. The truth is, success doesn't escape us because we don't dream big enough. It escapes us because we don't check in with ourselves often enough. We don't take a daily look at the habits that shape our future. We live on autopilot. We move from one task to the next, one decision to the next, one habit to the next, without ever stopping to ask whether those things are adding to the life we want or subtracting from it. Daily accounting is not about perfection. It's not about judging yourself. It's not about guilt or shame or pressure. It's about awareness. It's about truth. It's about having an honest conversation with yourself before the world has a chance to distract you, influence you, or overwhelm you. Most people wait until their life is falling apart to evaluate their habits. They wait until their health is gone, their relationships are strained, their opportunities are shrinking, their energy is depleted. They evaluate too late. They wait until the pain shows up. But daily accounting is the opposite. It prevents the pain before it arrives. It keeps you aligned with the life you're trying to build while you're building it. Think about a business. No business waits until the end of the year to find out if it's profitable. No business waits until it's bankrupt to review its spending. Every successful business performs daily or weekly accounting. They track what goes in. They track what goes out. They track what grows and what declines. Why? Because small financial missteps, if ignored, turn into massive losses. And small moments of growth, if tracked, turn into massive expansion. Your life operates the same way. Your habits are the income and expenses of your future. Your actions are the transactions of your growth. Every deposit, however small, adds strength to your foundation. Every debit, however small, creates cracks in that foundation. And when you track them daily, you stay honest, you stay alert, you stay in control. So many people know what they want, but they never ask if their daily habits match that desire. They want a healthier body, but their daily actions subtract from their health. They want financial freedom, but their habits subtract from their savings. They want meaningful relationships, but their habits subtract from connection. They want confidence, but their habits subtract from self-belief. Success demands daily accounting because without it, we become blind to the small choices that quietly build or destroy our lives. Consider a simple example: someone who wants to write a book. They have the idea, they have the passion. They have the dream, they tell everyone, one day I'm going to write it, but years pass and nothing happens. Not because they weren't capable, not because they weren't talented, but because they never held themselves accountable on a daily basis. They never asked, did I write today? They never checked the ledger. They never saw that day after day the debits outweighed the deposits. And eventually the dream faded not because it was impossible, but because it was never tracked. Daily accounting brings attention to your smallest habits so you can't ignore them. It forces you to look at the invisible patterns that shape your destiny, the ones you repeat unconsciously, the ones you tolerate, the ones you justify, the ones you excuse. The greatest trap of daily life is the belief that small actions don't matter. That today doesn't matter, that one choice doesn't matter, that skipping something once won't change anything. But daily accounting cuts through that illusion. It shows you that every action accumulates, every decision compounds, every habit leaves a mark. When you take a moment at the end of the day to reflect on what you did, you begin to see your life through a different lens. You begin to recognize the patterns that serve you and the ones that sabotage you. You begin to understand that your future isn't some distant dream. It's something you're building or destroying today. This kind of self-awareness is powerful. It's uncomfortable at times, but it's powerful. Because once you see your patterns clearly, you can't unsee them. Once you become aware of your daily debits, you can't pretend they aren't happening. Once you become aware of your deposits, you begin to appreciate how much progress you're actually making. Daily accounting also brings intention into your life. Most people live reactively. They respond to whatever shows up. They let their phone dictate their attention. They let their emotions dictate their actions. They let their distractions dictate their habits. But daily accounting flips that. It forces you to live intentionally. It forces you to ask questions you rarely ask yourself. What mattered today? What moved me forward? What held me back? What needs to change tomorrow? You start living on purpose, not by accident. Another powerful effect of daily accounting is that it builds self-trust. Trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship, including the one you have with yourself. When you check in with yourself daily, you learn to rely on your own honesty, you learn to rely on your own consistency, you learn to rely on your ability to choose deposits over debits. And over time, this builds confidence, not the loud external kind, but the quiet internal kind that strengthens you from the inside out. People often think confidence comes from success, but confidence comes from self-trust, and self-trust comes from keeping promises to yourself. Promises you track daily, promises you honor, promises you repeat until they become part of your identity. Daily accounting also keeps you humble. It reminds you that one good day doesn't guarantee a good week. One achievement doesn't guarantee progress. One deposit doesn't erase months of debits. Humility is important because it keeps you grounded. It keeps you focused. It keeps you aware that success is built in daily installments, not in sudden victories. At the same time, daily accounting protects you from discouragement. It helps you see that even small progress is still progress. It helps you appreciate the tiny wins. It helps you recognize the effort you're putting in, even on days when the results aren't obvious. Many people quit because they don't see immediate progress. They assume their efforts aren't working. They assume they're not improving, but when you evaluate your day, you see every small deposit, you recognize the tiny steps forward, and you begin to understand that growth is happening even if you can't see it yet. Daily accounting gives you evidence. Evidence that you're trying, evidence that you're learning, evidence that you're evolving, and that evidence creates momentum. There is another reason daily accounting matters. It keeps your future close. When you check in with your habits daily, your future no longer feels like some distant outcome. It becomes something you touch every day. Every deposit feels like a step into your future. Every debit feels like a step away from it. And because the future feels closer, you treat each day with more seriousness, more respect, more purpose. Without daily accounting, it's easy to drift, easy to lose track, easy to wake up one day wondering how you ended up where you are. But with daily accounting, you stay connected to your direction, you stay connected to your why, you stay connected to the person you're trying to become. At its core, daily accounting is about one thing: responsibility, not the kind of responsibility forced on you by others, but the kind you choose for yourself. It's not about blame, it's not about pressure, it's about ownership. Ownership of your time, ownership of your habits, ownership of your future, and when you take ownership, everything changes, your excuses shrink, your clarity grows, your discipline strengthens, your momentum builds, because you're no longer waiting for life to happen. You are participating in your own growth, you are shaping it, you are steering it. Every night, when you take a moment to reflect, just a few minutes, you send a message to yourself: my life matters enough to monitor it. You reinforce the truth that your future is not a matter of luck or accident. It is the result of your daily choices. Some people avoid daily accounting because they fear what they'll find. They fear confronting their habits. They fear facing their own patterns, but avoidance doesn't change the ledger. It only blinds you to it. Awareness, even when uncomfortable, is always better than ignorance, because when you're aware, you can correct. You can adjust, you can improve, you can grow. Success requires daily accounting not because it makes you perfect, but because it makes you aware. And awareness is the first step toward transformation. Every day is a page in your ledger. Every action is a line item. Every habit is a pattern. At the end of your life, the story will be clear. But right now, today, you have the power to shape what that story becomes. Ask yourself tonight quietly, honestly, without judgment: what did I deposit today? What did I withdraw today? And tomorrow, do the same. Because the path to success is not built in years. It's built in days. Days built from awareness. Days built from choice. Days built from daily accounting. And when you commit to this simple practice, Your future becomes something you create, not something you wait for. One day at a time, one choice at a time, one honest reflection at a time, there is a pattern that shows up in the life of every person who achieves something meaningful. It is not dramatic, it is not loud, it is not fueled by sudden bursts of motivation or rare moments of intense discipline. It is found in something far simpler, something far quieter, the power of consistency. It is the unwavering commitment to show up every day, even when no one is watching, even when there is no applause, even when the results are invisible. Consistency outweighs intensity not because intensity isn't useful, but because intensity doesn't last. Consistency does. It is easy to work hard when you feel inspired. It is easy to push yourself when emotions are high. It is easy to commit when the excitement is fresh and the goal feels new, but those moments don't define your future. They don't shape your identity. They don't build your legacy. What shapes your future are the actions you repeat, even on the days when inspiration is nowhere to be found. Most people misunderstand progress. They believe it comes in giant leaps. They believe it comes from massive sacrifices, huge commitments, or dramatic lifestyle changes. But progress rarely works that way. Real, lasting transformation is the result of countless small actions repeated consistently over time. Small deposits, small steps, small choices that seem insignificant in the moment but become everything in the long run. The reason consistency is so powerful is because it creates a rhythm, a heartbeat, a pattern that becomes part of who you are. When you repeat something enough, it becomes natural, it becomes automatic, it becomes the default behavior instead of the forced one. And once your habits stop requiring effort, your growth becomes inevitable. Intensity, on the other hand, is unpredictable. It is emotional, it is reactive, it burns bright, then fades quickly, it demands enormous energy but offers temporary results. Anyone can be intense for a day, very few can be consistent for a year, and yet it is consistency that determines who succeeds and who simply talks about succeeding. Think of a person who starts going to the gym. They arrive on day one full of motivation. They push themselves hard. They lift more than they should. They run faster than their endurance allows. They sweat, they struggle, they feel proud. But then day two comes, and they're sore, they're tired, they're discouraged by the pain, the excitement is gone. The novelty is gone, and so they skip. One day becomes two, two becomes three, and soon they return to their old habits. Then think of someone else, someone who goes to the gym for just 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes, they don't push themselves to the limit. They don't sprint, they don't lift their maximum weight, they simply show up. Day after day, week after week, month after month. 10 minutes grows into 20, 20 grows into 40, their endurance improves, their discipline strengthens. Their identity shifts, and by the end of the year they have transformed not because they ever worked intensely, but because they worked consistently. This is the difference between intensity and consistency. Intensity creates moments, consistency creates change. Many people chase intensity because it feels good, it feels powerful, it feels productive. Intensity gives you the illusion of progress. But consistency is quieter, it's less exciting, it doesn't offer immediate gratification, it doesn't provide a rush of pride, but it delivers something intensity never will, compounding results. Compounding is the force that takes something small and turns it into something extraordinary. It doesn't matter whether it's money, learning, fitness, relationships, or mastery. The compounding effect only rewards consistency. Read one page today and you won't remember much. Read one page every day for a year and you'll have read 365 pages. Read one page every day for 10 years and you will have consumed more wisdom than most people encounter in a lifetime. Practice a skill for 5 minutes today and you won't improve much. Practice it every day for a year and you'll be noticeably better. Practice it every day for a decade and you'll be exceptional. Perhaps world, class, speak kindly to your partner once and it won't change your relationship. Speak kindly every day, consistently, and the foundation of trust and respect will grow unshakable. Consistency is the architect of mastery. Intensity is the spark, but consistency is the flame that keeps burning. Another reason consistency outweighs intensity is because consistency forces humility. When you commit to small, repeated actions, you acknowledge that growth takes time. You accept that success isn't rushed. You recognize that you are building step by step and that every step is necessary. Intensity often comes from ego, from the desire to prove something quickly, from the belief that you can outwork or out-hustle the process. But growth doesn't respond to ego. It responds to patience, to dedication, to showing up. People quit not because their goals were impossible, but because they relied too heavily on intensity and not enough on consistency. They waited for motivation instead of building discipline. They chased the high of a powerful start instead of embracing the steady rhythm of commitment. Consistency doesn't care about your mood. It doesn't depend on excitement. It doesn't collapse when life becomes difficult. It simply asks one thing: show up today. This is the quiet power of consistency. It doesn't require perfection. It only requires presence. You don't need to run every day. You just need to walk on the days you can't run. You don't need to study for an hour. You just need to read for 5 minutes when you're tired. You don't need to save a large amount. You just need to save something, anything, every month. You don't need to produce your best work every day. You just need to produce something. Small efforts impact the ledger. Small steps protect the momentum. Small deposits keep the dream alive. The biggest obstacle to consistency is the belief that small actions don't matter. This belief destroys more dreams than failure ever could. Most people never reach their potential not because they aren't capable, but because they underestimate the value of small actions. They say, it's just one day, it's not a big deal, this won't make a difference, I'll start again next week, but success isn't built next week. It's built today, and then tomorrow, and then the day after that. Every day is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. A vote for the identity you are building, a vote for the future you are creating. Intensity casts one vote. Consistency casts thousands. Another reason consistency outweighs intensity is because consistency protects you from burnout. When you rely on intensity, you drain your energy quickly. You push yourself too hard too fast. You demand too much from yourself all at once. And eventually, your mind or body collapses under the pressure. But consistency is sustainable. It's manageable. It's adaptable. It allows you to grow without breaking. It allows you to progress without exhausting yourself. It gives you room to adjust, recover, and refine your approach. Consistency honors your humanity. Intensity often ignores it. Consistency also allows you to build rituals. Rituals create structure. Structure creates clarity, and clarity creates peace. When you know what you need to do every day, even in small amounts, you free yourself from decision fatigue and internal conflict. Consistency gives you direction. Intensity gives you distraction. When you work consistently, something interesting happens. You stop obsessing over results and start focusing on the process. You stop chasing outcomes and start mastering routines. You stop needing validation and start finding fulfillment in the act of showing up. This shift is powerful because the moment you fall in love with the process, success becomes inevitable. Not because you force it, but because you earn it through repetition, through commitment, through discipline. Consistency builds identity, and identity shapes destiny. When you repeat an action enough times, your brain rewires itself. You no longer see yourself as someone who tries. You see yourself as someone who is. You don't try to write. You are a writer. You don't try to train. You are an athlete. You don't try to save. You are a financially disciplined person. Identity is the foundation of lasting success. and identity is built through consistent behavior. Intensity may inspire you to start, but consistency is what transforms you. And here is the final truth. Consistency doesn't guarantee immediate results, but it guarantees eventual ones. You may not see progress today, you may not see progress next week, but if your habits are aligned with your goals, progress is happening beneath the surface, quietly, steadily, invisibly. And then one day you wake up different, stronger, wiser, more capable, more confident, not because of one breakthrough, but because of thousands of small, consistent steps. Consistency is the great equalizer. It doesn't care where you start. It doesn't care how talented you are. It doesn't care how much you have or don't have. It rewards the person who shows up, not the person who shows off. Intensity may make you feel powerful for a moment. Consistency makes you powerful for a lifetime, and that is why consistency outweighs intensity every single time. Your ledger never lies. It's one of the simplest truths about life, yet it's also one of the hardest to embrace. Because for most of us, the world feels like this place of endless variables. We look at people and say they're lucky, gifted, talented, connected. We convince ourselves that success is a mystery, a product of circumstance or chance. But the moment you look beneath the surface, the moment you start examining your own days, your own choices, your own habits, you begin to realize something humbling. The results you live with today are nothing more than the accumulated math of yesterday's behaviors. Nothing more, nothing less. Think about the last time you felt frustrated with yourself. Maybe it was about your health, your finances, your career, your discipline, or your relationships. We tend to treat these moments like isolated events. I'm having a bad week, we say. I need to reset, we tell ourselves. But life doesn't operate in isolated weeks. It operates in patterns, and patterns become the balance of your ledger. You don't just have a bank account, you have a behavioral account, a discipline account, a focus account, a patience account, an excellence account, and every day you're making deposits and debits into them. Whether you realize it or not, you're constantly contributing to a long-term balance that eventually becomes visible, undeniable, and often irreversible unless you actively work to change it. And this is the part most people miss. The ledger doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care about your excuses, your intentions, or your promises to do better tomorrow. It only records what you actually do. You can tell yourself you want to get in shape. The ledger doesn't write that down. It only writes down whether you exercised today or didn't. You can tell yourself you want to be financially stable. The ledger doesn't write down your dreams of stability. It records the spending, the saving, the investing, the planning, or the lack of it. You can tell yourself you want to build a business, but the ledger won't document the idea you keep in your head. It'll document the actions you took, the calls you made, the hours you invested, the learning you did, the fears you pushed through. The ledger only writes in verbs, not intentions, and maybe that's what makes this truth difficult. Because if the ledger is honest, then it means we have to be honest too. Honest about our distractions, honest about our procrastination, honest about the ways we self-sabotage, honest about the comfort we choose over growth, honest about the shortcuts we take, the opportunities we ignore, the standards we lower when no one's watching. Most people don't want that level of honesty with themselves. It's uncomfortable, it's confronting. But discomfort is where the transformation begins. When you start paying attention to your ledger, you begin noticing the difference between the life you want and the life your habits are building. There's a question worth asking every single day. Is today a deposit or a debit toward the person I want to become? It's a powerful question because it doesn't require perfection. It doesn't demand massive effort. It only requires awareness, and awareness leads to responsibility. Responsibility leads to change. When people look at hyper-forming individuals, they often mistake their results for talent. But the truth is, the most successful people simply make more deposits than debits. They show up when others quit. They practice when others procrastinate. They protect their energy when others waste it. They say no when others say yes to distractions. It's not magic, it's math. Every morning run is a deposit. Every hour spent learning is a deposit. Every hard decision that aligns with your values is a deposit. Every uncomfortable conversation that strengthens a relationship is a deposit. Every choice to prioritize long-term growth over short-term comfort is a deposit. And deposits always compound, but the same is true for debits. The missed workout, the ignored opportunity, the unnecessary arguments, the hours lost scrolling, the broken promises to yourself, those debits add up too. One or two won't ruin you, but accumulated over time, they drain the very future you hope to build. Here's the irony, people often blame the outcome instead of the ledger. Why didn't the promotion happen? Why am I stuck? Why do I feel behind? Why is my confidence low? Why isn't this dream taking off? But the ledger doesn't hide its patterns. If you study it, the answers become painfully clear. This is why accountability matters. Not accountability from others, accountability from yourself. Because if you can't hold yourself accountable to your own ledger, no one else can. And accountability isn't about punishment, it's about alignment. It's about ensuring your actions match your values and your aspirations. It's a strange thing, but we tend to give our best to others while giving our leftovers to ourselves. We keep our promises to our boss, but not to our goals. We show up for our friends, but not for our growth. We avoid disappointing others, but we tolerate disappointing ourselves. But the ledger remembers, even when we don't. There's something powerful about writing things down. When you track your habits, even simple things like reading for 10 minutes, journaling, exercising, meditating, learning, you start seeing patterns that were always there but never acknowledged. And once you see the pattern, you can no longer pretend you don't know. Awareness is the first step, but ownership is the second. And ownership is where transformation begins. The remarkable thing about the ledger is that it doesn't require dramatic change. You don't need to overhaul your life, you only need to shift the ratio of deposits to debits, a little more consistency. A little less distraction, a little more discipline, a little less avoidance, a little more courage, a little less fear. These small adjustments create enormous long-term effects. Success doesn't require perfect days. It requires more deposit days than debit days. The ledger is honest, but it's also forgiving. It doesn't punish you for yesterday's mistakes. It only responds to today's choices. The balance you build from this moment forward is entirely in your control. You can rewrite your patterns, you can change your trajectory, you can rebuild your confidence, you can strengthen your habits. You can shift the entire direction of your life, one small deposit at a time. Think about the person you want to be in 5 years. What does their ledger look like? What kind of deposits do they make daily? What standards do they hold? What distractions do they refuse? What commitments do they honor? What habits do they protect? That future version of you is not built by one grand moment of effort. They are built by thousands of small, quiet, consistent deposits that the world never sees. They are built by the days when no one applauds, when no one notices, when no one checks in, when no one validates you. They're built by the moments when you choose to honor your dream, even when it would be easier not to. And when you finally meet that version of yourself, when you step into the success you built day by day, it won't feel like luck. It won't feel like a miracle. It will feel like the most honest outcome you've ever experienced, because you'll know exactly how you got there. You'll remember the mornings you didn't quit, the evenings you kept going, the choices you made when no one was watching. The battles you fought within yourself, the standards you held even when it felt inconvenient, the sacrifices you made because you knew they mattered. Success always feels earned when you understand the ledger behind it, so here's the invitation: become the accountant of your own habits. Review your actions, notice your patterns, honor your deposits, acknowledge your debits, start each day with the awareness that everything counts. Because it does. You are writing your future with every choice, every action, every habit, and your ledger, unbiased, unfiltered, and unshakably honest, will reflect exactly what you've built. The question then is simple. When you look at your life months or years from now, will you be proud of the balance you created? Will you see evidence of discipline, consistency, courage, patience, and growth? Or will you see the quiet accumulation of excuses, avoidance, and missed opportunities? Your ledger never lies, and that's not something to fear. It's something to embrace, because it means your future is not an accident waiting to happen. It's a balance waiting to be built, one deposit at a time.